Hi, welcome to the Week 10 edition of the Daily Record High School Football Insider. We're taping this show on location at the Pines in Orrville, the site of the Worcester-Orrville Captain's Luncheon. The 101st meeting of the teams will be played Saturday. I'm Aaron Dorkson, Sports Czar, along with Mike Plant.
Later in the show, we'll be talking about the huge Wayne County Athletic League game between Norwayne and Hillsdale, as well as all of the other Week 10 games. But first, we've spent some time with the captains and coaches of both Worcester and Orrville today as they get ready for Saturday night's matchup.
And after a break, we'll be back with Worcester head coach Mike McCreary. And we're back with Worcester head coach Mike McCreary. Mike, you played in the game, coached in the game. Can you just talk a little bit about what this rivalry means to you?
It's a fantastic rivalry. Obviously, it's very emotional, and as you get older, it becomes more important to you, I suppose. Playing it as a junior year, we weren't successful, and I got another year to play. It's my senior year. We'll take care of business then. Not that it's not important, but that's why for the seniors, it's really important. Last game of the season, and I've always been taught and tell the kids, you kind of got two seasons here in Worcester. You got your first 9 games, and then you got Orrville, and that's how big it is. And you can't really appreciate it until you're done with it and over it, and then that's when it just becomes that much more important. But it's a great rivalry. It's intense. It's emotional, and it's just great to be in.
Yeah, Mike, I remember the game when you were a senior over at Orrville. You guys lost a tough one. But, this year, one common denominator in your big wins in the conference has been the defense coming up big. Can you talk about maybe some of the problems Orrville's offense is going to present you guys, and, how do you go about stopping that?
Well, the number one problem that we're going to have to stop is Mason Monahan. He's a bull as a running back. He's a hard-nosed kid. And he's been carrying the ball a ton for them. Orrville still throws the ball, obviously, but he's the guy that you got to stop. Otherwise, they'll give him the ball 30 times. Right. So we really got to be efficient in making sure we're taking care of business with Mason. And then the other thing that has always been big for Orrville is the big plays. The big plays, and they get them from the passes. Kyle throws a nice ball, deep ball, puts it on the money, lets those kids have a chance to catch the ball. Last year, like I've been saying, he was 3 for 15 last year in the game. One was a touchdown pass to Drew Brenner for 50 yards. The other one was a 30 or 40-yard pass to Stu to set up another touchdown. So, we got, and then obviously you got Stu and Brenner and the receivers, that you got to shut down. So, I mean, it's kind of a, it's a multiple threat that they present this year, just like they had last year. But we got to stop the run first. If we don't stop the run, then they can do whatever they want. So, that's our number one goal.
Well, Orrville has had you guys' number in the past few years. How do you get your team's confidence going, and do you think a fast start could play even more of an important role just to get that confidence going?
Obviously we don't want to. That's been the tough thing in these past few games, and if you recall these games, though, in 2005 when we lost, that was 21-14. Mm-hmm. On a late, they scored late in the game. And then they came over here, Worcester, and got after us pretty good. Then the following year was 14-0. It was a tough game over there. Came over here last year, was pretty, got after us again here. And then Cameron Baylor's senior year was 15-7. That was with Hubler and the boys that went pretty far. Yeah. So they've had some really good football teams, but we played really well over there. I don't know why, but the kids get pretty pumped, and they just play really well. So, for us, it's just we gotta come out and play solid football. Can't give up the big play, and just like everything else, you just got to stay calm. It was 14-3 last year, and then we gave up interception for a score. Drew, we forced him to punt, and then he keeps the ball, runs down the sideline, set up another score. And we go into halftime, it's 28-3, which is hard to overcome. But we can't give up. You got to play solid ball and make them score their points.
Well, Mike, good luck in the game. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back with the captain from each team. And we're back at the Worcester Orville Captain's Luncheon. I'm joined by Senior Captain Mason Monheim from Orville, Devontae Anderson from Worcester. Mason, let's start with you. Your school's hosting the game. This is actually your fourth Worcester Orville game. Can you just talk about what the rivalries meant to you and maybe how it changes now that you're a senior this year?
I mean, it's one of the greatest rivalries in the state, and I just feel truly blessed to be a part of it, and not only be a part of the game and the history behind it, but also be a part of the community and be able to represent myself and my team and my family and serve as a great role model. And yeah.
Devontae, you started playing varsity as a sophomore. Now you're a senior. What's your take on the rivalry?
I mean, I didn't get to play my freshman year. My junior year, I was injured, but I took a big role in my sophomore year game. We came up short, the last-minute touchdown to lose, and like, I know what it feels like to lose. Even though I wasn't a senior then, I saw like all the emotion after the game, and I just don't want it to be like that this year. And like, it's a great rivalry.
That's right. You were injured towards the end of last season, and you know when the team loses their running back who was about to go over 1,000 yards, you know. How's it feel to get the chance to go out there again this year, and maybe you can add that difference maker?
I mean, it's a good feeling because being on the sidelines last year, like that was just hard for me, and like all the emotion put into the 100th game last year, and I was a part of it, but not physically a part of it. So I'm pretty excited for this year.
Right. Mason, what do you think of the season you guys have had? It hasn't maybe been as high-powered offense as Orville's known for in the past. It's been a little more defense-based, but how do you feel about your team heading into Week 10?
I mean, we definitely had our ups and downs, and we definitely want to get a rolling start to the playoffs, but it doesn't really matter what the previous 9 games have looked like when it's Orville Worcester, so it's just going to be going out there and whoever wants it the most.
Right. Well, best of luck to both of you guys, and thanks for joining us. We'll be back after a break with Orville head coach Doug Duvall.
We're back at the annual Worcester Orville Captain's Luncheon, and joining us now is Orville head coach Doug Duvall. And Doug, you know, I know injuries are part of football, but they started for you guys really at the very beginning of the season when Matt Davis, actually in the preseason, went down with a knee injury in a scrimmage. You've also had some other major players dinged up through the year. What's it been like dealing with that, and are you guys as close to full strength as you've been going into Saturday night?
Yeah, probably. You know, you're right. Matt Davis goes down on the 3rd play in the first scrimmage of the year and tears his ACL, and it was one of those injuries where everybody knew what happened, and it affected us greatly for the rest of that day and probably about a week, because we knew here's a senior that had just busted his tail, and now his season looks like it's done. You know, thank the good Lord, Matt was blessed with some incredible genes and work ethic, and what he's done is he's playing right now, and is he 100%? No, he's maybe 70%, but the fact that he's on the field to me is just incredible. He's playing a little bit of tight end for us. We've got him a little bit of defensive tackle, and we get him out there and put him in where he can. He knows he's limited in some things, but at least he's out there his senior year, so that's a blessing. But you're right, the injuries have been phenomenal, but as part of football, you got a contact sport, you're going to get hurt. We've had broken hands and concussions and broken wrists and broken collarbones. More injuries than we normally have, yeah. Ones that keep kids off the field, yes, but that's not an excuse, because I will tell you that the kids that have stepped in have done a tremendous job. We're real proud of where the kids have come from where we've been. And what it's required is we've got probably 4 guys that play a minimum of 3 to 4 positions. And that's just what you do when you're a small school and you got limited numbers. Guys got to know how to play more than one spot, and that's exactly the way we've dealt with it.
Doug, you're back in the playoffs again. You know, a lot of people probably even predicted that after you went to the Final Four last year, but it's been a little bit different the way you've been winning the games. It's been a little more lower scoring, defense-oriented. The offense has had a little more struggle, consistency. How do you feel the team is heading into this Week 10 game?
Well, we have searched for the offense, and that's going to continue to go on this week, and we are tweaking here and tweaking there. You don't want to completely revamp things, but in the same token, you got to fix what's broke. Defensively, we've been absolutely stellar. Probably better than the numbers indicate, to be honest with you. Blown coverage here or there, and we're shutting a lot of folks out. Am I satisfied with where we're at? Absolutely not. You know, our goal is to get a little bit better each week, and offensively, we hope that we start turning the corner this week. So, you know, we're looking for to find some consistency on offense. And truthfully, if we eliminate the stinking turnovers and the penalties, that'll go a long way towards us running some offense.
Doug, I know you've had kind of a unique perspective of this rivalry. You've been part of it as a player, an assistant on both sides, I believe, and now as Orville's head coach. And I can imagine this probably means a lot to you personally. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. You know, I had the privilege of playing in 4 of these when I was in high school and being a captain and getting to do all the lunches and all the things we're doing now. And what a treat and a privilege that was. And then get back from being in South Carolina, and then I was coaching in it almost immediately at Worcester. And having to work with Bob McFarland and Gary Green and Joe Studer, and even Mike and I coach together. Mike and I are good friends because of our time together. My perspective is there's no other game like this. I've been in other places, I've been to other communities, and folks don't rally like they do around this game. And our kids probably need to go away too, so they understand just how big a deal this is. Because I got a better appreciation for it when I was living in Myrtle Beach and loved it down there. If I didn't have any kids, I'd still be there. But I will tell you that there was no sense of community down there. There wasn't anything like this, even in our big games that we played down there. So to be a part of it is just, it's an honor and a privilege, and to be attached to it as strongly as I've been able to be makes it even sweeter.
Well, Doug, thanks for taking the time. Best of luck in the game, and we'll be back after a break to look at the rest of the games in the area this week. And welcome back. We're going to run through the slate of games with a comment or two on each one. We're going to start out, Mike, with Smithville at Chippewa. The Smithies, one of their biggest victories since their string of record league championships in the early 2000s when they beat Norway 19-14. The Smithies will be big favorites to get the victory over Chippewa that's been rebuilding this week. And Smithville going to be doing a lot of scoreboard watching. The Smithies at 7-2, you know, they'll be favored to go to 8-2. If Norway can beat Hillsdale, then the Smithies that earn a tri-championship in the WCAL and have a decent shot at making the playoffs, probably 50-50 or a little better. A lot of heroes for Smithville and their win over Norway. Great job of the ball control. Mark Hilty, Ian Steiner running behind a big offensive line. And not only did they beat the Bobcats, they held them to only 7 offensive plays in the second half. Coach Keith Schrock won his 249th game. So Smithies looking to keep it rolling when they go to Chippewa.
Yeah, and the thing too, Aaron, real quick, after 35 years, Coach Schrock showed that he still can get his team up and ready to play a big game. Another WCAL game, Northwestern will travel to Rittman, and a couple of teams just trying to get something positive going into the offseason. Rittman, way too many turnovers this year, and it's tough to see them take a step back after last year's success. Northwestern last week in a tough loss to Wayndale played great defense until the very last drive. They let Wayndale go the length of the field to tie the game, and then the Golden Bears pulled it out in overtime. But a lot of good young players for the Huskies.
A great rivalry game in the WCAL will take place when Dalton, 2-7, goes to Wayndale, 5-4. Although it's been some tough weeks for these teams, they can both end with winning streaks of either 2 or 3 games. Wayndale riding high after Andre Lorenz booted a game-winning 30-yard field goal. Wayne County League not always known for real good kicking, but he came through in a big way. And Dalton had a freshman quarterback, Zach Ryder, step up in the win over the Chips.
In the Ohio Cardinal Conference, West Holmes will be making the short trip to Clear Fork to take on the Colts, who are currently in a 4-game losing slide. The loss a couple weeks ago by West Holmes by a point seemed to take a little bit of the steam out of the Knights, but they are shooting Friday night to finish with only their 3rd winning record since 2000, and again with a lot of young kids, Aaron, they should be pretty good next year.
Another team that's had a rough year but could actually end with a winning streak is Triway. They got a big upset in the pack last week when they beat Tusky Valley for their first win. They're going to go to the turf at Canton-Timken. Freshman Parker Carmichael passed for 289 yards last week. believe it or not, Mike, he's already 5th in the area in passing yards with 1299, and he really didn't even take over the quarterback job full time until a few games into the season.
Yeah, we've talked about him all season as a freshman, but I think you got to give a little tip of the hat to Marcus Birch and the other seniors. Marcus had 2 touchdown catches last week and is second in the area with 42 catches overall. Also in the pack, Tuslaw will be going to Fairless in the 51st renewal of the Blue Cup, which is what they've played for. And Tuslaw will be looking to add to their 14-game winning streak in that rivalry.
In the Suburban League, Cloverleaf 3-6 is going to go over to Medina Highland 6-3. Highland is trying to make the playoffs for the 3rd time in 4 years. The Colts coming off a tough 24-22 loss. They had a couple 2-point conversions they weren't able to pick up.
And in the final game we're going to look at in this segment, Fredericktown will be traveling to Loudonville to take on the Redbirds in the final game for Loudonville in the Mid-Buckeye Conference. Loudonville has a chance, Aaron, to get to 500 after an 0-3 start, and from what we've heard, they've got a lot of talent coming up through their youth program, so we look for better things for the Redbirds as in the years to come. And when we take, we're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at the big games on the schedule, Hillsdale, Norwayne, and Worcester Orville on the Daily Record High School Football Insider.
And welcome back. We're going to wrap things up talking about the 2 headliner games of the week. Mike, let's start on Friday night. Hillsdale 9-0, perfect on the season, goes to Norwayne 8-1. The Falcons can take the WCAL title outright with a win. Get second. They've already clinched part of it for the 2nd straight year, and they also probably need to win to make the playoffs. Norwayne already in the playoffs, but wants to rebound from last week's loss to Smithville. Also wants to try to avenge a Week 10 loss last year to the Falcons. Games not all for the marbles after the Smithville played their way into the championship a little bit, but should be a good matchup. The big question, can Norwayne rebound, get back on track? Their offense had been and defense have been unstoppable. They've been outscoring teams 52-7 coming into the Smithville game. Adam Wallace, the Norwayne quarterback, it all starts with him. Need to get him going a little bit more. He still leads the area, Mike, with over 1,600 yards passing, 23 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions. The Falcons, maybe not quite as flashy, but effective. They've also had a great season.
Yeah, they have. I think the big thing, and it might be a positive for Norwayne, that they've got this big game coming up shortly after last week's big disappointing loss. They haven't had any time to dwell on that because they've had to get ready to already clinch a playoff berth, but I know that they want to share the WCAL. I think the big key from Norwayne in this game, Aaron, is like they didn't do last week, they're going to have to handle Hillsdale's physicality up front. The Falcons, who beat Smithville earlier in the season 34-21, also have a big, strong offensive and defensive line. So Norwayne's going to have to match that. Looking at Hillsdale, they have a lot of veterans in key spots, and you just talked about Adam Wallace and Norwayne's quarterback. Hillsdale's quarterback, Trevor Klein, has thrown for 900 yards, 15 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. The kid just doesn't make any mistakes, and he's also added 421 yards on the ground. And last about this game, Aaron, we already know that Norwayne is in the playoffs and likely to play a home playoff game, but they're in Week 11 regardless. Hillsdale, on the other hand, it's either win or go home for the season.
That's right. Hillsdale or Smithville, a lot of people think it could come down to them for that last spot in Division 5, Region 19. I really do expect another close game where it could be a big play here or there. I think if teams do have long drives, they need to capitalize. They need to get points. That could be huge. Of course, turnovers. I was surprised last week that Norwayne couldn't get its rushing attack going a little bit more. They did complete some passes, so I think Norwayne's going to maybe have to get the Zimmerly brothers running the ball a little more, get Adam Wallace on the ground. They just couldn't get a lot going. But should be a great matchup. And let's flip the calendar ahead to Saturday then, Mike. Worcester's going to go over to Orville for the Granddaddy Mall, the 101st meeting of these rivals. And Orville's trying to do something they've never done before, is beat Worcester for a 7th straight year.
Yeah, and you look at Worcester, they average over 34 points a game and come into the game with a losing record. So that kind of tells you what where they have to be better. Would be on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, haven't had many problems this year with Devontae Anderson, who missed the game a year ago. So we talked to him earlier today, and I know he wants to make a big impact. And Devin Doherty, like his counterpart from Orville, Kyle Lichty, both hitting under 50% of their passes, but Doherty is still thrown for over 1,600 yards and 18 touchdowns. I think for Worcester, especially after last year, the way they started slow and really got blown out in the 100th game, it's important that they get off to a good start Saturday night.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, that was one of the questions I kind of put to Coach Mike McCreary last year. Orville took that game 42-17. So I really do believe if Worcester could start out pretty well, or still be in the game at half, or leading, that's a big key, because I think confidence when you haven't been able to get it done in recent years is important. Having Devontae Anderson back will be huge. He leads the area with 1,139 yards rushing, his 20 rushing touchdowns. I remember early in last year's game, Worcester had a series where they were down inside about the 5-yard line, couldn't punch it in on 3 straight runs, and how sorely they missed Devontae. And sometimes the tempo of a game really is set early on with some plays that aren't made. Orville hasn't been scoring quite as much, but their defense has just been outstanding. So that's my most interesting matchup for this game is what's Worcester's high-scoring offense going to do against that Orville defense, Mike?
Yeah, and I think too, Aaron, that I don't think there's any question that this is the best defense Worcester will have gone up against this year. Orville, they've shut down some very good offenses already this season.
So that completes the look at the Week 10 games. We would like to thank everybody for watching this year. Once again, thank our producer, director, photographer, Twitter expert, Dan Starcher.
And make sure you read about all of Friday night's games and Saturday's Sports Extra, and you can read about the Worcester-Orville game in the Sunday Daily Record. And you might want to stay tuned. We'll be back next week with our playoff edition of the High School Football Insider.
Thanks for watching.
And reading.